Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and all you lovely chaotic neutrals, to the new episode of Dragons and Diatribes. Been a little bit. We're actually going to be taking a break here from. I know we started with Divine Magic. We're planning to hit Arcane and Primal soon, but since we had our last episode, there's been a lot of stuff coming out on D&D 5.5 or 1 D&D or whatever they're calling it. So we're going to talk through it. I think Ethan and I have been following it. Jared hasn't really looked into it much, so we're hopefully going to get some live reactions here, chat a little about it. But I'm Ed, one of your co-hosts here, joined by Ethan and Jared.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'm going in blind. I saw we were talking about this earlier just a second ago. I saw the 45-minute YouTube video per subclass, and I was like, I can't. I have no time to do this right now. I was like, oh, I'm not.
See, I listened to each of them on my commute, so it worked out well.
I couldn't.
I was
I couldn't do it.
But yeah, we're going to talk about it. Talk about kind of some basic changes. This isn't, I don't think, going to be like a sort of vastly thorough examination, nothing min maxing, but just kind of talking about stuff we think is cool, focused around the classes that we like, kind of the changes that they're made, and talking about how Wizards of the Coast just keeps, bending Ranger over a table. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
they definitely did Rangers dirty, and I think they really fucked the Paladin.
Oh
I
my god!
disagree, but that's maybe but we'll get into this, and I think we'll just
Just
start
start at the
maybe.
top.
Ethan and I can talk just about just for a second, kind of. I guess if we're more optimistic or pessimistic about what's coming down the track, and you can go ahead and take it for a sec, Ethan.
Okay, yeah, I think and I know I came on strong there. I think overall the design changes were good. I think they balanced out. I think there's a lot of quality of life things that people were already kind of doing anyway, and so they're kind of codifying it and going, you know what? Yeah, we can do this. I love that they really gave some of the more martial classes some love besides the paladin, which I know you disagree with, so we can talk about that. But um, like the fighters getting quite a the fighter for sure has gotten quite beefed up, which I appreciate because I
Yeah.
know fighters are awesome. You get all the action surges and everything, especially at high levels. You can just be a damage output machine. But I think that sometimes you end up paling in comparison to a lot of the magical characters. And so I like that they kind of have given them a little bit of more of a beef up to be able to feel exciting, as exciting as it can be. So definitely liked that. And I also think the changes to the warlock are spectacular. I think the warlock was a really underpowered um, class, and both the warlock and the monk, and they're really popular classes, but they're really underpowered. And so I think that the changes that were made to those two classes were great. So all in all, I thought it was great. Somebody hates the ranger. What,
Yeah.
like, just hates it. Like, what?
It
Why?
is.
Why is you're you can't give a class
Yeah.
have its main thing
Well,
be concentration. I anyway.
Well, I'm in a slightly different camp, but I guess we can dig it. We'll just start with the Ranger. It's gonna come up. I saw a video. It was about like damage output, and um, if the Ranger is not per se underpowered, in the sense of like it doesn't deal quite as much damage as the fighter, but
Well, I
that's
wasn't saying they were underpowered.
oh no. But
Oh, okay.
here's the issue. Sort of, it doesn't feel badass, and to
Yeah.
me, it's putting Ranger in the place. Like it's just it moved some of its tools around, and Jared. One of the things that they changed is they're really putting a great deal of emphasis now for the Ranger on Hunter's Mark, which people who
But it's
don't know
still
is this. It's a
yeah, but
bonus action. It's a concentration spell
it's still a
that
concentration. Oh,
increases your damage. Here's what I think is going to happen. This is my if they don't do this, I think it's a big fail. The reason why a lot of people are upset that they're Hunter's Mark Central is because of the concentration element of it. because there's a lot of other ranger spells
Or
that take
concentration.
concentration, like I forget the bottomless quiver one, like that kind of thing. Like they're concentration spells. What I think they're gonna do, and if they don't, then I'm gonna be more in your camp. I think that they're gonna because we already know that they're retooling a lot of the spells. I think they're going to take a lot of the ranger spells that previously were concentration and remove the concentration tag, because a lot of them did not merit concentration.
Yeah,
And so I think that if you do that and you make it so it's like Hunter's Mark is like your concentration
that's
bread
your
and
thing.
butter for the
Yeah.
ranger, I think that I think it'll be quite good. I think if they're obviously if they're gonna like, because there's no point
One and
if
I actually
three
like
of
that
your
solution,
abilities
right?
are
And people might think it's backwards. Why are you getting rid of a bunch of concentration instead of just getting rid of concentration in one? But I was actually struggling with this in my own head because I was like, you can't have all these concentration spells for a ranger and then make one concentration spell central. But Hunter's Mark, it makes sense for it to be concentration because you're
yeah,
concentrating on your target. So
yeah,
I was like, how do we adjust that? Because it would feel weird if it wasn't, but it
yeah.
but we need it. So that would be a good solution.
And
I
that's what I'm
would be a fan
hoping
of that.
comes across, because one of the things that they did, so the cleric, we can pretty safely say is getting a bit of a nerf.
as
Not
it
the
should.
class.
See,
Well, here's
I
I
thought
not
the
the
paladin got way more nerfed than the
no,
cleric
no,
did.
it's not the class. This is it's specifically the spell spiritual weapon. 'Cause spiritual weapon is a mainstay for clerics. It's a bonus action to cast, a bonus action to
And no
use on each of your
concentration.
turns, no concentration. They're making it concentration, I'm say with like 99%
Really?
certainty, because when they were going over the war domain, one of the abilities, because they've retooled the war domain cleric, so it seems great.
Yeah.
But one of the things they said is they were like, we're giving the war domain cleric this particular ability, which allows them to cast either Shield of Faith, which is the armor class buff, or
Mhm.
spiritual weapon a certain number of times. And the war domain cleric has the benefit of being able to cast these spells without having to concentrate on it, which they didn't pull it out specifically. But I'm like, okay, so that means
So
other people will
they're
be
retooling.
concentrating on spiritual weapon, which frankly I think is okay. Clerics, for what they are, were like
Yeah.
outputting way too much damage with like spirit guardians plus spiritual weapon. And I think war
Especially
domain,
if you're a war cleric and you're also getting an attack. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and like
you can get
war
some mondo damage in.
yeah, and war domain cleric, I think being able to cast it with no concentration makes sense because that's what they are. But it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm a life domain cleric who,
Yeah.
it just seems sort of. But that's the big issue surrounding the ranger, and the fact that they have very little identity.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like they've given the fighter more identity with the abilities. The
Yeah.
ranger, like, um, you don't really have the sort of, you're gonna have to work harder to create like role playing opportunities,
Yeah.
Mm.
in the way like the old fighter. It's like the fighter's not a bad class to role play, but like a lot of like battle master, there's nothing that like, there's no story prompts that come off of that. Ranger is kind of the same now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
more than it was before, where it feels like they're putting it in this space where it's like it's hard to build a story with the mechanics,
Yeah.
and with I mean, you have the Gloomstalker and the Fey Wanderer, the subclasses, but I guess we can zoom back out, talk about a couple big.
I
But
mean,
real fast
um
too. The other thing that I really like
sure.
about this that I didn't get to touch on before is it really it encourages multi-classing, I think, in a big way, the new changes, while also still rewarding people who stay with the same class all the way through. Because at level 19, regardless of your class now, you get an epic boon. So if you make it to level 19 in a class, you automatically get an epic boon. So it's a incentive to stay in one class for the majority of the time you're playing. And it also gives you something if all of your other friends are multi-classing, getting all these cool different abilities and mixing and matching. You get something at the end that's like, hey, I stuck with it. I've got something that's going to help me out in this final battle or whatever.
They're very good.
So I think that was great. That it's encouraging multi-classing. It's kind of leaning into that creative aspect, or that something may happen in the story that may adjust your character's leaning from like fighter into that maybe war cleric or fighter into warlock or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's doing it in a way where it's like you can lean into that, but also will give you stuff for staying in your class.
Mm. The weird thing is that I'm in this blind, right? The thing that I hear when, especially with the Ranger, because the Ranger's always been difficult as hell, especially with Beastmaster and all the other balancing stuff. The one thing that I'm hearing or thinking of, I guess, what I hear you guys say that is, this seems to me, and this might be a negative take or a negative aspect of it, but it seems to me that they have basically given up on the favorite enemy, and they're making it so the hunter's mark is now your quote all applied
Yes.
favorite enemy. That's what it feels like to me. Because you know, it's like everyone picks like giant or fucking lizard or some shit, and then your DM goes out of his way, whether it's fair or not, or the world you're in. You know, you never run across your favorite enemy. This feels like a walk back to no matter what gets thrown at you, you're a ranger. You can get a little bit of.
It almost makes it the vow of enmity.
Yes, that's exactly like that. It just,
which I think
it makes it seem like it's just an all encompassing, and they might as well, if they're gonna do a full concentration centralization like that, throw the favorite enemy out the window and find something else. Like, because it seems like that's what they're trying to do, but without actually taking it out of the game.
Because they've moved away from that, and I think that's good. Bring up a great point.
I think it's good too, but it throws it's that identity issue, right?
Yeah, that makes it less. It takes the identity even further down, because now you don't have a favorite enemy. Now you're just the guy that hits shit with your bow and arrow. Lame.
Yeah, well, you can also be an arcane archer and do that.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of tricky too, because like at a certain point, I get that, but also from a gameplay perspective, it's like favorite terrain is like, in most games, like when's it, you might have an arc. It's like, oh, we're in, like, unless you pick forest,
right?
But then every ranger is the same, and then the same issue with like the favorite foe. That works really well in like one shots, which like, hey, we're gonna be fighting some undead. Like, great, I'm picking an undead one, but then it's like, it's the same issue as like clerics turn undead,
right?
Where it's like, okay, this could, if the DM pre-wrote this, or if it's a pre-written campaign, like it might never come up. And that I think is a real feels bad man moment. So it kind of takes some pressure off of DMs and players, in the sense, because I do understand the fantasy as well as the ranger, as opposed to being like, I have studied undead and their movements, just being like, I'm a very capable killer. And
I'm a predator.
I'm a predator.
No matter what I do, I hunt
exactly right.
and I'll kill it. Yeah.
That's what it seems. That's what it seems to do.
And I think that's more the fantasy that it's going to be now. Is it's like, I'm actually,
they're bounty hunters.
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing too. Is I was like,
they're witchers. They're witchers.
The new
that's
Hunter
all they
Ranger, the new hunter, and I'm like, this feels like a bounty hunter. Like, and in all the best ways, because it's like, they changed it so you can, the hunter ranger, it used to be you selected at every level like an upgrade kind of thing. Now you just get to pick every long rest which of the upgrades you have, which feels way more in line with, like, so like, oh, I've got, they feel almost like utility marshals in the way that in the vein of the rogue, but with a different specialty. With a different specialization in what they do, like the more wisdom-based utility versus intelligence.
Did you guys ever play Diablo at all? Do you know the demon hunter? That's what it sounds like you guys are describing to me. It's literally just it's like a Witcher, but it's not like you don't get magic. It's just damage. There's no magical aspect to it, but that you guys, this is what it sounds like. You're like I'm closing my eyes and I'm back in Diablo 3 playing the Demon Hunter.
Sure.
It's just a
Yeah, and it
bunch of
could be
range, a bunch of movement, a bunch of favored
Mhm.
terrains and enemies and stuff like that, and like you get a bunch of
Yeah.
perks from keeping your distance, which is what it seems like all this rewrite's done.
Y- Yeah, and they've retooled and upgraded the classes. I like what they've done with Beast Hunter or Beastmaster a lot. Because now they took away the like, you don't you just pick a beast stat block. They have set stat blocks so that you can flavor however you want. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a beast if you don't want it to be. It just, you
Which
have the
makes
stat
sense
block.
because that
Yeah.
always bothered the shit out of me. I'm like, why can't I have a displacer beast be my
Yeah.
beast companion,
You
even
have
though
to
it's
be a
technically
bear.
not
It
a
has to be a
or
bear or a
whatever.
wolf.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
seriously, man, come on.
The thing that
Like,
always bothered me about it was
I
like
want some magical creature. I'm in
they
a fantasy
yeah,
world.
well they give you a favored terrain and then they give you like no options for what would be in that terrain at all in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
pick like desert, you're not gonna find a fucking bear in the desert or a
Yeah.
wolf or
Yeah, you're like
anything.
like a lizard or something.
Yeah, give me a
Yeah. I
giant
mean,
like Gila monster, dude, or some shit like that, like or like or a mini
yeah.
bullet or something else, because like it seemed like the
Yeah.
only terrain that actually mattered was forest.
And that's what you can do is because it's like it's not, obviously it's not built into the stat block, right? But it's like you can flavor your beast companion being a bullet.
Right.
It's like
Right.
it doesn't have the burrow kind of stuff, sure, but
Yeah.
it's it can be that, which I think gives a lot of flexibility to, in that realm. But pulling it out a little bit from the Ranger, just talking about some general changes that I like. One thing they did is they've changed how your in character creation, how your stats are given to your character. It used to be in 5e, your race determined your stats. So, I was looking, it's like, okay, Dragonborn have a +2 to strength, +1 to charisma, or what have you.
Now
Or,
they're not races, they're species.
so they're not races in their species, but the stats actually come from your background. And the
Yeah.
way it works is the example they gave is the acolyte. The acolyte, it's like you're raised in a temple. This is a background, and then what it gives you is each background has three different abilities associated with it. So for the acolyte, it's charisma, wisdom, intelligence. And when you take that background, you select either 2 in 1 or 1 in each. So you could either do, 2 charisma, 1 intelligence, 2 intelligence, 1 wisdom, 2 wisdom, whatever, or just one of each. And I like that a great deal actually, because
I
it
do too.
still it gives the limitation, but the limitation doesn't limit your aesthetics, because like obviously it's like, oh, I really want to be a tiefling paladin, but yeah, I mean, maybe that's a bad example. I would really want to be a gnome paladin, but it's like, oh, they get intelligence and wisdom buffed. Like, okay, well, that sucks.
Yeah,
you know,
there definitely
uh,
were some combos in the in the original 5e that like you almost couldn't play without
yeah,
purposely nerfing yourself to death.
yeah,
Yeah. And
and
what this is the other thing I like about this, adding on to it, right? If you want to have a custom backstory that you talk about with your DM, that gives
Mhm,
your DM and you flexibility on, okay, what 3 things are you going to give me for background that we've tooled out together?
yeah.
So it allows you to extrapolate and build off of everything as well, much easier than like, oh, my race is my race and I can't change it, right?
I'm a
And
high
I
elf. I
think it's
have to have
better.
intelligence.
And I
Yeah.
think it's better than what they were doing towards like, like Mordenkainen's Monsters of
And
the Multiverse with
Tasha,
the monstrous races and Tasha's. What they did is it's like, as this race, you get +2 in one ability score of your choice and +1 in a different one. And it's like, that
yeah,
doesn't feel right either. Like for,
yeah,
No.
so I like this because it allows the aesthetics of your race or species or what have you to not nerf you.
Right.
yeah.
And like, I've been having people do, pick your buffs because it to me
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, but there are certainly DMs who are like, nope, you are playing a tiefling, you get the charisma.
Right.
And it's,
So I see both sides, right? Because one side, depending how you want to play it, it does make sense. Like a gnome would not be as strong naturally as a dragonborn or Goliath or whatever. So like I understand that is why they started there, and because it's probably always been that way for the most part. Because like oh, I'm a half orc. You're gonna be naturally bigger and naturally stronger than a wood elf or whatever it is, right? So I understand it from that perspective. But now I think it's nice that they're offering a secondary version if you don't want to go the route of like, oh, well, I'm this big half orc, so I have to be super strong and I can't do any magic. Instead of being like, well, I'm a half orc, yes, aesthetically, but now I'm, on the magically inclined version.
It gives
So,
you this freedom because, like, if you took a character and just conceptualizing this, right? You have a orc or a half orc who was, abandoned because they were the runt and were scrawny and they didn't think they'd cut it and they got picked up by a temple. It doesn't make sense for that character to have a strength buff. And it gives a little more freedom with the storytelling from that aspect as well. Cause it's like, okay, yeah, maybe my gnome is a carpenter or a bricklayer or something. So they're, beefier, or maybe, they were a soldier. And it's like, yeah, I think that the racial bonuses are good in terms of reinforcing the cliche of the class. But I also think that it taking it off of the races uh, gives you more freedom with developing a character you want and not mechanically nerfing yourself.
Yeah. Or at least the option if you do not want it that way. I think I think it's more of an optional thing in their mind is how I think they're trying to design it. They're giving you a way out almost, which is I can appreciate,
Yeah, and the other thing that's a big change,
people have been doing it for however long.
Yeah, for sure. What they've pivoted to now with marshals, this is a huge buff to anyone who's a marshal, is weapon mastery. And what weapon mastery is every weapon has a property, and based on your class, you can choose certain weapons you have mastery of. The fighter gets the most with, I think, 4 weapons to start, and they end up with more. The other ones, paladin, ranger, rogue, they get 2. And each individual weapon has different properties that do different things. So one of the examples they gave, I forget, this won't be precise, but just as an example, like one of the properties that might belong to a great axe or a pole arm or something is push. It's like whenever you hit with this weapon, if you have mastery of it, it triggers a strength save or you're pushed, the target's pushed 10 feet. And then there's
one of
ones
them's like you can knock people prone.
Yep.
There's one if you have a hammer, it's called like I forget what it's called, but it's like
graze.
Yeah, and then like graze. So like graze is like with a long sword. If you swing at somebody and you hit them, you can also cleave. I'm thinking of cleave.
So that's cleave. Graze is even cooler. Graze is if you miss, you still deal your strength modifier of damage.
You know what's wild about that is Baldur's Gate did that.
If you hit somebody, you keep going and you can hit another person next to them.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate had weapons that did that actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. They'd have them where like it's like bludgeoning where it's like even if you miss it's still +2 damage or whatever it is. So like that's cool. Wow. They must have known. They're in on it
too.
It's an inside job. I've decided that game's an inside job. It was a play test version of the new 5.5. I'm calling it right now.
There's another one too, because like those ones are very, obviously good for fighters, barbarians, paladins. But there are other ones like Sap is one that I think of in particular, which like Sap is like if you hit a creature with this, your next attack against the creature has advantage, which is just insane for rogues because then they automatically proc their sneak attack based off of their previous attack. There's one, daggers have something called Nick, which basically is So the way two weapon fighting works in 5e is if you have two light weapons, if you attack with one, you can spend your bonus action to make a second attack.
Right.
If the weapons you're attacking with also have Nick as their mastery property, you don't need to spend your bonus action to make the
For that
bonus action
second attack.
attack.
Oh,
Now you don't get an additional one on top of that. So it's not like, oh, I'm using both and then I spend my bonus. You
But
just
then
move
it frees your
move
bonus action to dash,
dash,
disengage, whatever you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Rogue's got a huge buff with that weapon mastery and some of the opportunities to be able to proc their sneak attack
Sneak
damage,
attack.
which
Yeah.
makes sense to me because even if a rogue is fighting you like in one-on-one, right? The rogue's still going to have opportunities to take you by surprise because that's the whole point. They've been trained to fight in a way to get you off guard. And so I like this idea that the rogue doesn't just have to leap from the shadows and stab and then run away again. They can actually stand up and like be a little bit more physical in a fight
Mhm.
and not have to run away and still have the opportunity to proc their sneak attack, which is their big weapon, their big damage dealer, right? I think that's a great.
And rogues now have different ways to utilize sneak attack,
Yeah.
which is really cool because now rogues have certain abilities that they can implement when they deal sneak attack.
Mhm.
They can sacrifice some of the damage
For
to
effect.
do alternate effects. For example, you can, let's say you have a pool of, 4d6 sneak attack damage. You can deal instead only 2d6 and also knock them prone, is one of the examples. So it's like I think Rogue, a lot of people are saying Rogues got nerfed, and in a sense, they're not dealing the like cataclysmic damage. They're not going to keep up with the fighter, which they could in 5e. They're not going to do that, or the barbarian, but they definitely have, I think, a lot more utility with what they're doing. Being able to poison targets, by sacrificing sneak attack damage, being able to, just all that.
Makes no sense
think
to me.
it's.
They
Mhm.
shouldn't be doing the damage output of a fighter. A fighter is a fighter.
I
A
agree.
rogue is a sneaky boy.
I agree.
I think that statuses would be more their thing. They're not trying to outright beat someone, best someone one on one with
Yeah.
damage. They're trying to trip them up, knock them over, and then get out. Like they're not
Yeah.
there to go toe to toe on the line like the barbarians and fighters and paladins.
no, they're
Yeah.
masters of opportunity for a reason.
Yeah,
But speaking of paladins, we can talk about the big nerf. It is a nerf. So here's the big change: the change to Divine Smite. So Divine Smite previously worked as when you hit, you could expend a spell slot to deal extra damage. And Divine Smite was a feature of the paladin. What they've done is they've changed it. So Divine Smite is now a spell.
no
The
paladins.
It's it's Paladin Smite. It's a feature of the Paladin, so all Paladins get it. There's no way to get you can't get rid of it. It's an automatic spell that they get. But when you expend it, it works in a similar way. When you hit, you can expend it, but it also costs your bonus action, and that seems to be a big nerf. But I mean, and it's also limited to once per turn now because of the spell requirement. Um, and that is a nerf for sure.
I thought it was
But
once per turn anyway. Even in the 5e book, it said once per turn.
maybe I'm wrong.
I could have
But
sworn it was
now,
that sounds exactly the same as the regular smite to me. What's different about it?
so it
It's a
costs your
spell.
bonus action. It can be counterspelled.
It can be
Um,
counterspelled. That's the thing. That's my big problem with it.
No one's counterspelling a smite. Come on now.
and that's, I think, possibly true. But for me, what I think it does is they've also given paladins a number of different uses for their bonus action. But what I actually think with this, because it is a flat out nerf, but looking at paladin and looking at the way they play,
You're right.
um,
You could have done it more
yeah,
than once per turn.
yeah, and like you can't use it on reactions now because you can't spend your bonus, so no opportunity attack smites, that kind
Okay,
of thing.
the reaction one is actually huge.
Yeah.
That's
hurt.
fucked.
So
That's fucked up.
so
I'm not gonna lie.
it
That's a
so it is
cool.
it's a substantial nerf, but also the way I think of it is that like I DM for a paladin last night, and it's like every paladin that I've ever DM for does the exact same thing every turn, which frankly most of the time they don't have any bonus actions anyway. What I think is now I think it's good because it actually makes it so that you can do other things with your turn without feeling like you're suboptimally playing. Because when you're playing a paladin at any level, the most optimal thing is to be a smite machine as 5e stands. I think now they've brought Divine Smite to a place, and frankly, it was overpowered. I think, like I was, these were third level players. The Divine Smites, are dealing an average at level 3 of 20 damage a hit, which is insane. And it's
True.
like, that's really high.
But you only
And
get it once. Like they don't. They have such a limited number of spell slots that you can only use it like once per combat, twice per combat. Then you're done.
Well, I mean, that's true. But it's like, uh, 3 times a day at level 3. That's true. It's limited.
Yeah, but
But
how many
also
times does a paladin have to save his spell slots? To be honest, right?
and also now they are expanding for both ranger and paladin. They both get spells at first level and they end up getting more slots. That's something we know that's coming. So they're going to
Yeah.
have more gas in the chamber. This probably also serves as a balancing factor for that, because they're going to have more slots to smite with. And I
Yeah.
think adding weapon mastery means that just hitting does something. And so I think it becomes good because like lay on hands is no longer an action. So now it becomes like with the paladin, it's like, okay, do I want to hit this guy, deal an extra 2d8 damage? Or do I want to and knock him 10 feet back? Or do I just want to knock him 10 feet back and heal myself for 20? And so I think it feels bad in the sense of like, yeah, it's a flat out nerf, but also I think it will make paladin play more interesting because it'll.
This was my other thing, right? Like it used to be you could bonus action add a smite, let's say Sundering Smite, and then if you hit, add on top of that Divine Smite. So you can't do that anymore. So you can't stack anything anymore. And I just feel like that's why I played a Paladin. I played a Paladin for that, and it doesn't happen very often, but I played a Paladin for that like Nat 20 crit, Thundering Smite, and Divine Smite on top of that, like holy hammer from on high, let's smash this guy. That's what I liked about it, and I understand that now it's more utility and you'll have more options, which is great. But you're not gonna. I feel like it's gonna be like. I feel like it may lose some of its identity because you're going to be playing it almost like a war. Like, what's the difference between this and like a war cleric now?
So I think they're
Right.
changing some of the class fantasy because another thing Paladin is getting is at a certain level. I forget which level, like 6 or something. They can always cast Find Steed.
Yeah.
And Find Steed got buffed. So they're making paladins
Because the Paladin players
more.
always rode around on their spectral steeds.
Well, see, I'm of the opinion that that's actually um, it's giving a different identity, but like the paladin previously, it just felt like, the cleric's big brother, and now it feels more like a knight, which is kind of what it always was. And I obviously understand it's a nerf, but like from the DMing perspective, it paladins are one of those ones where it's like, damn it, this makes it really hard to balance things in advance if you're, like me and you don't change health pools in the middle of it. Cause it's like, okay, you know, there's a 5, and this may, 5, 10, 15 as the rounds go on. percent chance that this paladin's just gonna go nuclear and deal 60 damage from level 5 in one hit. And it's like, um,
I just
I
like
think
those epic moments, I guess, and that's
it is, and it's epic for sure, but also like I think you still have it's making the paladin less of a nuclear bomb,
Mm.
which I think is okay. It feels worse for sure,
I don't know.
but I
I
also
feel like
think
it's a
it'll.
it's a
like
step backwards though from the cap. Like if they wanted to do this, why would they make the cavalier then for the fighter? If they
It's
want,
not a
my
fighter subclass in the new one.
yeah, but if you, I'm sorry,
It's not one of the subclasses in the new book, Cavalier.
they took it out.
So
they took a
each
bunch out.
class. So this is another
Oh,
thing.
Like
Each class has
clerics only
four
have what,
subclasses.
4 or 5? Yeah, 4
Each
now.
each class has four subclasses. This is another thing that
No
people don't
Tempest
like.
cleric anymore.
oh,
I think
what?
it's
Boo!
it once again, it feels bad in a certain sense, but it's also like, if you look at the player's handbook of 2014, like half of the classes only have two.
True,
Um,
true. I will give you
and
that. That is
it's
true.
and they're all at four now. I think they'll release the other stuff as they go. Like they'll do more
Well, and
updates. I
people
think
are
we'll
still
get
gonna play
Tempest.
with the other stuff too.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
it's not unbalanced to do so.
It's
So
Some
it's
people will
not.
not
And
recognize the 5.5 at all. They'll just nix it entirely.
my big issue, real quick, going back to the Paladin though, with the the Fine Steed, they have a bunch of
Mhm.
a couple abilities now that like buff that a whole lot. But
yeah,
I just have an issue with that because it's so niche. It ends up being something like the Ranger and their favored terrain. Like, when are you going to use a horse? You have to be outside. You can't really use it in a dungeon. You can't really use it in a building. You can't really you there. It's so like situational that it's just never going to get used. And to have it be a core feature of the class is just going to hurt it, I think.
I think I understand. I also think though, because one of the things they get is they get a free casting every day.
Yeah,
So, there is the sense of it's like, oh, trouble's brewing, and there is this aesthetic. And I always think, interestingly, with Fine Steed, I think of like Gandalf and Shadowfax. It's
yeah,
like, you know something bad's coming, or like if Game of Thrones with, a dragon, your
yeah,
mount, like, or Aragon or whatever. It's like they, something's up. You get this coming in, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna, and maybe it's like, oh, they're riding a horse in the throne room. That might be a little weird, but
yeah,
I really think it can make sense, especially with the way Fine Steed now works, where it's like a set stat block. You're not just picking a horse. Once again, you can flavor it however you
yeah.
want. So it's like, this doesn't need to be a horse. It's like, oh, I'm a fucking tiger riding paladin, or if we're in a desert, I'm riding a giant Komodo dragon, or I think there's I th- it I do get what you're saying though. It is a little like, I don't think it won't be though, and mounted combat, especially if they revamp um and get us more rules for it, could be really good. Because like, I mean, the guy I was playing with yesterday had the mountain combatant feat as a
Mhm.
paladin, and it's insane. Like, it's just, oh, you have advantage if you're attacking somebody smaller than your mount, and all mounts are large. If you're
Yeah,
attacking any, like, there's
medium humanoid or any kind of medium creatures. Yeah,
so I think people will use it if they especially because it's like having a mount increases your speed, which is just better. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
yeah,
I'm riding a horse, my speed becomes 60.
yeah,
It's like, that's really good. And I think that it 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 feels to me kind of like the Eldritch Knight's weapon bond, except with the mount, in terms
yeah,
of like, it's something you can summon when you need it, and you need not flavor it like you're kind of creating a spiritual horse or whatever. You could just flavor it. It's like, oh, it senses, when I need it, which is me casting the spell, and you have, that kind
yeah.
of thing.
It sounds great for ambushing, but like to Ethan's point, like if you're in a city, it sounds very
or a dungeon. That's my big
Yeah,
thing. If
like
you're in
if you go anywhere where you
when
can't
you're
like
in combat usually and you're in the dungeon,
yeah.
it's
Like
like
like a West Marches
uh,
style campaign where you're constantly moving from town to town and you know you're gonna get a lot of like road trouble or
that'd be
like
good.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like it's a good time. But if you're in any sort of like big city esque
confined
thing or confined
space.
space, it seems like it's basically null and void. I would rather have a
Well,
divine smite that
depending
I can use on
depending
my
on the game.
reaction. I'd rather use divine smite than call a steed. I would
Which
trade
is
that
why
in a
you get the
heartbeat.
which is why you get the free casting of the steed, um, so
Yeah,
you can get one. So I do understand the y'all's side.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
just
I mean I think it's pretty cool myself.
it'd be
Just
cool in the right
it,
scenarios for sure.
and because it feels like Paladin, or I guess pun intended, one trick ponies before, and like it's a cool trick for sure, but it's I uh I feel like this will make you have to. One of the things they talked about with a lot of their design philosophy with it is like they tried mostly avoiding nerfs, and where they could, they buffed everything around. So it's like,
yeah,
that like with the feats, it's like, because their reasoning is like, we don't want people to feel limited when you're building a character,
yeah,
um, by how strong one option is, that you'll be handicapped without it. So it's like, sharpshooter, if you're an archer, you're handicapped if you don't take sharpshooter. So what
yeah.
their solution is mostly buff what you can, then they nerf some things down. And paladin, I feel it's the same, because like there's the like 5e paladin as it stands, like the optimal thing on every turn is smiting. And like it feels like you're kind of neutering your character if you're doing anything else. And what I think this does is they've buffed so many other elements of the paladin, while toning down smite, which will actually make it so like, okay, maybe doing something else is equally viable while I can still hit with a mega smite if I want to. Um, I I I I think that's pretty good. And it feels bad for sure, in some ways, but also I think it'll make it. You'll have to think more playing paladin, and it'll be more about what actually is the right tool in your case, and maybe it's a different spell, than just smiting. Because like it's like you know most paladins don't cast a spell during the day unless it's like a vengeance paladin misty stepping to get closer so they can smite. Like it's like most of the spell list goes pretty unused most of the
Yeah.
time for most
Yeah,
paladins. So
you get like bless and ward of protection and shit like that. So I mean, yeah, like I get it, but like at the end of the day, like to discredit what Wizards wants to do is like when you build up an archetype like a paladin and then you take away like their divine smite opportunities whenever they can, it kind of feels like you're taking off their identity a little bit to me. Because like in reality, if you are a blessed champion of whatever god, you should be able to call upon that god every single time you're able to, like attacks of opportunity when you hit, and then now it's like, oh, we understand it's a one trick pony. Like me personally, I don't think I've ever played a paladin and felt like a one trick pony using the smite, and I can see how in game design it might look that way, but I don't think I've ever felt that way. Like you were saying, you feel not optimal. It just felt like that was the way you fight, in the same way a rogue
And,
fights with sneak attack, in the same way a bard wouldn't get up there and stab, in the same way, a druid fights in their wild shape. Like it never felt like I was like at gunpoint in a metaphorical sense of like, oh, if you don't do smite, you're not contributing to the team as much. So I see both
and I,
sides, but like
and I,
it never felt like that. It always felt like, oh, I'm a paladin. This is my thing. I get to do this every time. This is my shit. This is my box, and I'm in it, and I love it or whatever. But
and I think that actually brings up a really good point, Jared. I think this is going to be a really hard divide between people who play paladins a lot and everybody else. I think everybody else is going to be like, "Oh, you can do all these things now. Aren't you happy? Like, isn't that great?" And I think Paladin players are going to be like, "No, I just want to walk up and make the thing go bye-bye. I want to walk up and I want to do 40 damage on a crit."
It's the same
because
way
that's
barbarian
fun to
players
me.
feel about rage. They love it. They want to do it. They're never gonna stop
Well,
raging. Every time they roll, they go, "I want to rage, bitch," and they just go right
yeah.
into it. The martial
So I
people that are
think
that kind of mindset, they don't care about the one trick pony because that's not the feedback they get is not like oh damn, I wish I could do this and had an option to do this. They're like, nah, fuck that. I'm going in there. I'm just gonna smash this thing, and that's how they like
yeah,
it. That's the way
if
of
you
the
wanted to do
world.
that, you'd play a wizard or a bard.
Exactly.
Sure,
I see
and
both
that
sides, but like I've never ever had that like feeling loom
sure,
behind me.
sure. And that could be valid for sure. Like I think that's a valid
But
perspective,
if you
but
go from
just I,
wizard to paladin, I can see why you want more. I can see why. If you're not a martial esque build guy,
You don't
I
usually
can see
play.
I can see why you want more options than just all I
and
can
it's
do is
also
smite.
to the same point. I think it's also meant to balance with the weapon mastery. In addition to the bonus spell slots, like paladins,
You do
whatever
not.
weapon you
Yeah.
use, they also get access to the full fighting style list now. So they can use anything they want. So any weapon property you want, it's like, okay, so like if you're looking at the new one, it's like not only say we keep the old smite, it's like not only can you smite on every turn, you can also knock anyone you hit prone in addition to doing this without spending a bonus action. So I think that it's um the general buff to marshals, the general buff to weapons,
They needed to nerf
and
it. They needed to drop
they
it down
they
a little
needed
bit.
they needed to because like if you took all of those things together, because there's no cap on the number of times a martial property can be used with a weapon. You get that every time you hit some or if you miss, depending on
Those
the
spell
yeah,
slots
like
need
you
to throw these hands.
yeah,
Right.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And so it's like I think that having the old smite would just be ridiculous.
I mean
It would
I
be.
With all
understand
that.
that. I understand
I
that.
can see that because I can see the idea, the issue of having all that plus the smite. You would actually be doing a disservice to your party if you played any other martial class besides a paladin,
Yeah, because
because
you
the
you
damage
really
output would
be
just be so high, so much higher than the other classes.
Yeah.
So I get
Uh-huh.
that. I can understand where they're
And
coming
it
from.
does it does feel bad, but
It just
also like
ping. It just
pretty
pings
much
more. It just
every
pings a bit, you know.
it does, but like every other element of the paladin pretty much was buffed.
Yeah.
Um besides the smite. So, it's like, oh, lay on hands is a bonus action. That's
that is
great.
huge. That is
That is sweet.
That's
huge.
That
that's
is kind of
huge.
sweet.
It's
Yeah.
they're getting more spell slots is huge. The subclasses got tuned up um to be generally stronger. Um so I think and I think that they partially did that probably because of this nerf, because they're like, oh,
Everybody's gonna
here's
be pissed,
here's
so we got to
here's
do
every it's
yeah.
like here's everything we can do to kind of make up for this because like your point is correct. It's like if the paladin gets that, like, and can just do it for free, or not for free, spending spell slots obviously, but it's like at higher level, like you have enough slots with the new spell slot progression to basically smite every turn,
Right.
at least once, and it's like. And then you also have the weapon mastery property, and then you also have your bonus action free to do all the stuff they've now made cost a bonus action. The idea being you can also attack while doing this. Um, so I think it'll increase and this is another thing is they're increasing somewhat the tactical element of the game, which is kind of what the weapon proper comes into, and I think that's um, with it being more tactical, they have to be more cautious about balancing. Um, but I think we could switch to a class that I really like what they did with, which is the barbarian.
Okay.
As we touched on that, or actually, we could talk about fighter too, because I also am super into fighter. Jared, do you
Yeah,
have a
we can do both.
preference?
We can do both. I just definitely want to touch on the Warlock too, because they had Mondo changes done to the Warlock. Like
So
Did
did the
big
monk.
did they
changes.
boost the monk? Thank God they
And
finally
they boosted
boosted
the
the
monk.
monk.
They juiced the
My
monk. The monk
time,
is
my
The monk
time
is
has
a
come. 10 years,
the
10
monk is a
years of
new,
suffering.
the monk is the monk is almost a new class, and actually, well, let's talk about one monk change really quick because I just want to
let's do
chat
the
about
monk. Let's
this.
do the monk. We're all excited about
Let's
it.
do the monk.
Let's do it.
So so one change that they did. So the first one, which is I just think quality of life. So normally monks previously had with martial arts, when you take the attack action, you can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action. Now the feature just lets you make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, period, full stop. You always have access to an additional attack, whatever you do with your action, which is great. They also enhanced the main key abilities. So Step of the Wind previously was like you spend a key point to gain the effects of dash and disengage. The defense one was like you spend a key point to dodge as a bonus action, and flurry of blows. They've made all of them better. So now they basically have a sort of an augmented version of cunning action. So like the Step of the
Because that
Wind
seems
is
smart. Like as a
Mhm.
monk player, where basically the rogue next to you gets all of your special stuff for free with no key points.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
you're over
Exactly
here
Pretty
like,
right.
much.
well,
That's how it always was.
And
So
so
anyway,
And
sorry.
they
basically,
get more damage the whole time. You're like, this is fucking
yeah. So
ridiculous.
what you get with patient defense now is you can just always take disengage as a bonus action, and you can spend a key point to also get the effect of the dodge action. So you automatically get disengage, and you can spend a key point to also get
Enhance it.
dodge. Step of the Wind, you can always take dash as a bonus action, and you can spend a point to also disengage and double your jump distance. So you automatically have dash and disengage as bonus actions always, and you can spend key points to do more. Flurry of Blows starts the same. You eventually, instead of getting 2 unarmed strikes, get 3 at a higher level. Um,
And they've upped the damage dice for those too.
They
The
sixes
scaling.
now.
Yep.
start at
So
a D6
Yeah,
and go to
starts at
D12
6.
it
instead.
scales to D12 at high levels.
Dude, also,
10 long
Oh,
years.
one of my favorites is Stunning Strike. They finally fixed
They
Stunning
fixed it, so
Strike.
it's not shit
They
anymore.
balanced it. So here's what. So Stunning Strike was like this feast. So what they did, they
Feast or
a
famine.
slight a slight nerf for a big buff. So now you can only attempt Stunning Strike once a turn. But if they succeed the save, their speed is halved, and the next attack against them has advantage.
So
Oh,
even if they
So,
save,
so even if they save, they
so
have
good.
a negative effect. That's huge.
That is
Still,
massive.
but you can only do
and
it once per turn, and because
which I think is
you couldn't spam it, you can't spam it anymore.
which
But
is I think good because that gives more like it necessitates you keeping key points longer, and they do it in a positive way where you actually like there. Because I'm a very much not a fan of feast or famine abilities because like it just it feels so bad when you miss, and also like if you're a monk, it's like you're a 5th level monk. It's like, and you're fighting a boss. It's like the optimal thing is it's like I'm going to attack twice, try to stunning strike both times, flurry of blows, try to stunning strike both times,
And then you're out of key.
and then you're out of,
And
you're
then
out of
you're
key.
out. You're out for the
That's
rest of
all
the
fine.
fight. Yep.
And so it's like
Yeah.
what it does is it expands your pool, but it also makes sure that every time you're spending key, something good is
positive
happening.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one of my biggest
Which
things
is
that I
good.
always hated about the monk is the monk was so the highs were high and the lows were lows. There were some fights you'd
They
have
also
where you couldn't do anything, and there were some fights where you basically locked down the whole fight by yourself
Yep.
because you got
Yeah.
two
And
you got two strikes in two different directions and both stunned, and then you're like, well, have at it, boys. They're done now.
And
Like, you know,
here's another great thing they're doing with key. So it's 2nd level on. Once per long rest, you can when you roll for initiative, regain all of your key points,
Nice.
as well as you regain hit points. Um, so you basically, in essence, double your amount of key. Um, which I mean, you get back on a short rest anyway. But I think that this is really good because it's like, oh, we got 2 fights in a row. Let me top up.
Yeah.
It
They
just
buffed.
doesn't. It keeps you from feeling going into a fight like gassed
Yeah.
more so than other classes. Because like other like I mean, it sometimes that's a DM tactic, right? They're trying to get you to use up all your stuff. But a wizard's spell slots, he has a bajillion of them, and they're going to last a lot longer than all of your key in one fight.
Don't.
So,
Isn't it true that do wizards have the arcane recovery one where you
and
can
then
like
yeah, they also have an arcane
yeah,
recovery
you can get
ability.
like either you get, like your pool is 5, so you can get like a third level back and a second level back, and the rest. Yeah, that's what I always hated. Is like for some reason monks never had a way out of recovery, and it seemed like
Yeah.
everyone else got like something back.
Yeah.
I mean, like either their short rest, like when they burn a hit dice or something like that, and then it seemed like monk was like, well, if you have 5 key points and you blow 4 of them, good luck in the next fight that's just about to happen because you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So third level, they buffed deflect missiles. No longer deflect missiles; it's deflect attacks.
Nice.
So anything that deals bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, you can
You can
use
Mr.
your
Miyagi
reaction,
that shit.
You wax on,
and then
wax
you
off,
can
dude.
and then you can spend your a key point to make an attack with it that actually just deals 2 times the damage of your martial arts die. So like you roll twice instead of doing the weapons. So it's like an arrow. Oh, it's a D8. Huh, nope, 2D8. Which is sick. They also at a higher level, I think it's level 13 or something. It becomes deflect energy, so you can do it with any targeted attack.
Oh,
So it's like, oh, fireball.
You're like that Eldritch Blast?
Nope.
How about back at you, buddy?
Exactly right.
Uno
Which is super
reverse.
sick.
Yeah, the monk.
Let's
The
see.
monk. I'm excited for the changes for the monk.
So there's the monk subclasses, which we can go over in a sec because those got tuned up majorly.
Oh yeah.
Here's a great one at 7th level. In addition to still having evasion, you can once per long rest, you can take a short rest in 1 minute. So that gives you all your key back.
Two. So basically, 3 times a day you can get your
can
key back
recharge
without having to spend 6 out or spend 3 hours in a long rest or a short rest.
Yep. So yeah, Flurry of Blows got buffed. So then at 10th level, all of the basic ones are buffed. So like Patient Defense, you also, when you use your key point, you also get extra temporary hit points, Step of the Wind. You also can take someone with you. When you get the dash and disengage, you can just grab someone and yeet them.
Like a free grapple almost.
Not a comrade.
Oh.
Like a teammate. You can reposition your teammates. And also something else that's a buff. So they changed unarmed strikes in a way that's beneficial to monks. So now that you have 3 options, and this is true of all classes, anyone who does an unarmed strike. So now if you deal an unarmed strike, you can either deal the damage or do a grapple attempt or shove. Instead of shove being a full action, instead of grappling being a full action, now it just replaces an attack. So it's like a monk, you can grapple, and then, 5th level, you can grapple, you can punch, flurry of blows, 2 more punches, or you can, push someone off a cliff, just with all of your hits, not dealing any damage, but moving someone 10 feet every time. So that's really good. And then 10th level is where you get 3 unarmed strikes.
Is it on hit?
Yes, it's when you hit. That now it procs a save against your skill, but still really good. Let's see. Still have proficiency with all saving throws at 14th level. Let's see what else is new. 18th level, you can spend 3. They're also no longer called key points. They're called discipline points. Is a change, or focus points, I think is the final name. Focus points. But you can just at 18th level, you can spend 3 focus points And for 1 minute, you have resistance to all damage except force.
That's pretty good, actually. I like that.
It is. And then their 20th level ability is sick. It's like a Mirror of the Barbarians one. They're sorry, Jared had an interruption. I'll wait for the final ability because he'll go crazy for it.
He's gonna. The problem is he's gonna gonna want to start using this in my campaign that we're running now. He's gonna be like,
I'm down. I mean, I'm down to switch over, but that's your call. But Jared, the
I'm
20th
I'm
level monk
100%
ability.
trying to weasel my way into that.
So the 20th level monk ability is a Mirror of the Barbarians. Your dexterity and wisdom scores both increase by 4, and your maximum is increased over 20. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's great. And then the subclasses, so they have 4. They have the way of the so they changed the names. It's now Warrior of the blank. So like Warrior of the open hand, Warrior of the elements, Warrior of shadow, Warrior of mercy. Warrior of mercy is pretty much unchanged. Warrior of the elements is the one that I am super excited for. It used to be Way of the Four Elements, which was
Trash, garbage,
garbage.
unused,
tier.
trash tier. No one ever used it. It was dog water.
so now at 3rd level you can spend 1 discipline point to give yourself to enter like an elemental state for a minute. And when you do that, your unarmed strikes deal elemental damage, and also the reach is increased by 10 feet. So it's like literally like for 1 minute, 10 minutes you're bending. It's like,
Yeah.
I like the idea is like the idea they say it's like it's not like your arm is stretching. It's like, oh, I'm going to punch and then geyser
Inspire.
of flame is going to hit
Yeah.
them, which is
Agni
super
Kai. I
sick.
challenge you to an Agni Kai. Let's
Basically,
go.
yeah, it's basically Avatar now.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
6th level. Oh, this one's great. So you can spend 2 discipline points to basically cast a mini version of Fireball or a Cold Ball or Lightning Ball or whatever you want. It's the same radius as Fireball, and you deal damage equal to 3 rolls of your mark. Sorry, the same radius. Same radius. Did I say same damage? Same radius as
Oh,
Fireball.
okay.
And it deals, yeah. So it's the same. It's big, and it deals damage equal to 3 rolls of your martial arts die. On a fail, half as much on a success. So you basically get a ranged option. Um, let's see, 11th level. When you use Step of the Wind, you also gain a fly speed and a swim speed for 10 minutes.
10
Yeah.
minutes. No.
Yep.
No.
10 minutes.
And then
So in combat, you can just decide you want to fly now.
60 rounds of combat.
And then 17th level, when you enter your elemental state, you get to choose resistance to one of the elemental damages, and you can change it every turn
That's
if you
amazing.
want.
That's splendiferous.
When you use Step of the Wind, your speed increases by 20 feet for the turn, and any creature of your choice, um, basically, if you pass them, takes damage equal to some number of rolls of your martial arts. So it's like you do flaming steps and just like leave the
It's
trail of
almost
flames
like
in your wake.
it's like the spell of Charladon Stride from
Yeah.
Fizzbins, but you get it
And then
as a monk because why not?
and then
Because they
every
deserve
turn
it.
you get to just every turn, when you hit, you can just get an additional martial arts die of damage, which at that level's 12. So it's like, oh, my first punch deals 2d12 instead of 1. So Way of the Four Elements looks
It's
sick.
baller, dude.
It's
I'm so
finally
excited.
been redone in a way that doesn't blow.
Yeah.
You can actually use
Yeah.
it now. It's actually usable.
Let's see. Warrior of the Open Hand.
That one didn't have a lot changed. It's just now the Quivering Palm got changed. Their capstone ability.
Quivering Palm, yeah, got a nerf, which I also am okay with because it
still does a shit ton of damage.
10
So
d12.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's a lot.
you're I didn't feel like that one didn't hurt me as much as, like, the
Yeah.
Paladin Smite for some reason. I was just like, "Oh, yeah, okay. It is a
Oh,
nerf, but it's like you're still just absolutely shrekking that guy, like."
though at 11th level though, this is new for them. Whenever you take a bonus action other than Step of the Wind, you can also use Step of the Wind as part of that bonus action. So these guys are moving.
Good.
Wholeness
As
of
they
body.
seem.
Well, and that's what I like about the Monk too. They really leaned into the action economy and movement. I mean, a movement economy of like the Monk.
Mhm.
And you see it both with the Step of the Wind stuff for the Warrior, the open fist, but also with the elements, 4 elements with like the movement, with the elemental options, flight, swim speed. They're everywhere. They're all over the battlefield doing damage, and I kind of am here for it. Yeah,
Shadow Monk got buffed.
yeah, buddy.
So now you can now it only costs
No, because
one
you just play
discipline.
a rogue.
Yeah. Now it only costs so one of their abilities is they could spend keep cast the darkness spell. It now costs one instead of two. So you can cast the darkness spell, and also you can see through the darkness that you create with that ability. You gain dark vision, and if you already have it, it's extended. Um, and you also gain the minor illusion cantrip, which is a nice little bonus. You still have the teleport ability. So when you are within dim light or darkness, you can use a bonus action to teleport up to 60 feet to another dim or dark place. And you have advantage on the next melee attack you make. Um, and then level 11, you can spend a discipline point to remove that restriction. So you can spend a key point to just teleport up to 60 feet and gain advantage on an attack, which is great. And then their 17th level ability is when you're in dim light or darkness, you could spend 3 points to shroud yourself in darkness while you are, you know, shrouded this way. Oh, this is great. You're invisible. So no good luck, dark vision. You can move, you're incorporeal, so you can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain.
Oh my god.
And you can use flurry of blows without spending any focus points.
Wow.
Oh, which at that
Wow.
point is 3 attacks. Now it does cost, 3 discipline points to activate, but if it's up for more than 3 turns, you're definitely getting your money.
I'd also
Wow.
like to briefly call out, speaking of huge buffs to subclasses, like Trickery Domain Cleric got a massive subclass buff, in my opinion, um, with Invoke Duplicity, which is like its main thing. But it always seemed underpowered, which I think is why it was not a very much played subclass. You can now, as a bonus action, every time you create or move your doppelganger, your duplicate, you can swap places with it. So you can constantly be changing back and forth as a bonus action.
Nice. Very nice.
So and they just got some really nice quality of life stuff.
The other subclass shout out for me that got a huge buff is Illusion Wizard,
Yeah,
which looks sick.
yeah,
So, like for one, they when you cast illusion spells at a certain level, I forget what, but you just increase the range by 60 feet. So, a lot of these spells have like a 20-foot range, but for you, it's 80.
and they
So
also don't require verbal components to their
or
illusion spells.
somatic.
Yeah.
Or somatic. So you can just cast these without moving, which is great. And the other thing too, I think this is a really cool way of using illusion is you automatically gain access to a couple summon spells. So like summon, I forget which, summon beast, summon whatever they are. And what you can do is you can cast them for free a certain number of times a day, but they're illusions. So they have less health, but they deal the same damage. So, like, basically, you can for free do conjuration. They're weaker, but you don't spend any resource on it, which I think is super flavorful and awesome. And also, the range on them is increased by 60 because of your because they become illusion spells when you cast them that way.
Yeah, I'm
It's
super excited as a
so cool.
wizard main. Very excited for the buffs to
Yeah,
wizard.
but let's talk about the fighter.
Yes, I'm
Fucking
so excited.
fighter. Holy shit!
I'm
They
that
gave it
weird guy who's
utility.
either really wants to be a wizard or really wants to be a fighter, and there's no really any in between for me.
Hmm.
So there's obviously the weapon mastery buffs
Yeah.
are huge for fighter. They get more than anybody else. So they also gain uses of second wind, multiple
Yes.
uses.
So
And
huge.
the reason why that's good is because you can spend them on other stuff. So you can, whenever you make a ability check, can burn a second wind charge to, you know, add the D10. And if you fail it still, you don't expend the usage. So if
Yeah.
you're trying to persuade or intimidate someone, you can burn a second wind charge to get an additional D10. And if you still fail, it doesn't use a resource.
Hello, all
Yeah.
beautiful,
So
beautiful.
really good. Um,
Another episode.
I love
and
the
let's see
love
here.
tactical shift.
Tactical shift level 5. Whenever you
Yeah.
use second wind, you can move up to half of your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So also movement ability, that's insane. Indomitable is the same. Oh, level 9. This is another one that plays with the weapon mastery. Whenever you finish this was changed. This is old news. But so you what it is there are three weapon mastery properties. I think it's like push, sap, and something else. But you can just replace, like, you can have a weapon, and every time you hit, you can choose one of those three to replace the mastery property that already is on the weapon. It's like, oh, I have I'm fighting with daggers, which lets me use Nick, but I can exchange it for push on this hit whenever I want.
Yeah.
So it gives them a lot more utility, which is awesome. Uh, and this one is great. Level 13 studied attacks. If you miss a creature with an attack, you have advantage on the next attack roll you make against them. It's awesome. Super awesome. And then they buff, and then 20th level, it's still 4 attacks.
Wow.
So,
They gave them a lot.
and then the subclasses also got buffed.
Yep.
Champion,
Is
like, used to
crazy.
be white bread. Now, so you still get the increased critical range. You also just, flat when you choose it, you have advantage on initiative rolls and athletics check. You also increase your jump distance. Um, you get extra fighting styles still. And then this is crazy. So heroic advantage, or heroic inspiration. Their inspiration is where you can, burn it to gain advantage. The champion, if they start their turn in combat without inspiration, they just gain it. So you have a free advantage attack every turn, which is
If you're the
nuts.
champion, they make their own inspiration.
Yeah. Superior critical remains the same. You still crit 18 to 20.
Yeah.
So really good. And then 18th level, your crit range applies to death saves. So now if you're at that level and you roll an 18 on your death saving throw, you gain the benefit of a 20. And at the start of each of your turns, if you have over 0 hit points, you regain health every turn.
Good
Uh,
to know.
up to half your hit point maximum.
Wow.
So really very solid.
Why do you
Very,
think they felt the rework? Just for flavoring?
because Champion was boring and not fun and weak.
I feel like it still got the job done though.
Like
I don't know about weak. I don't know if weak's the right word.
maybe not, but
Maybe
it was just
average.
the average. Like
Average
it
but not
was,
special in its own way.
yeah. Let me see here. So the other three that they have the champion, they have the battle master,
The
they
Eldritch
have the
Knight got a little retooled too, because the Battle Master and the Psy Warrior, which are the other two, they stayed pretty much the same. Um,
yeah,
I
close
think
to
they
battle
had a
master got
slight
one
difference.
change, but
Know your enemy
mhm,
changed slightly.
much
Um,
better. You
yeah,
get
it
to
made it
learn
better, like that,
resistances, vulnerabilities, and
and
immunities and stuff.
immunities. Yeah, and then
Better.
Relentless Presence gives you a free D8 instead of having to use your superiority die
Yeah.
at 15th level.
So
But the Eldritch Knight, what I really like about it is they've leaned in more to the magic side of it. So now you can. It used to be that you would cast a cantrip as your action, and then you get to attack as your bonus action. If you cast a cantrip, you could attack as your bonus action. Now, what it is it's intermixed. So you get 2 attacks per attack action. So now you can cast a cantrip with one of the actions and attack with the other action. Um,
So
um,
yeah, basically when you take the attack action, you can replace one attack with a cantrip, and at
yeah,
higher levels, you can replace 2 attacks with I think a first or second level spell.
yeah,
So you're basically slinging spells a lot more.
yeah. And
And
intermixing it with your fighting. So I like that flavor aspect too of like you're like slashing over here and then casting a spell over there, and you're like you're constantly like controlling the battlefield, air quotes, by like being able to do longer range stuff for your friends over on that side and be like holding this guy off here.
and
So I
also
kind of like
it
that.
the other just pocket buff is that now you can do booming blade with other attacks,
Yeah,
which is really good because Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade are both stupidly good.
yeah,
So now it's like, oh, I'm 13th level. I can do Booming Blade and also just make 2 more attacks in addition to
yeah,
the Booming Blade attack instead of only getting one Booming Blade attack. And you're sacrificing less, and then your bonus action still free to Second Wind,
yep,
uh, which is really good.
yep.
Um, The Barbarian also, I really like the changes there. They they had they had the two main ones. So they had Wild or not Wild, but they had Berserker, which got a big buff.
Thank
They
goodness.
also they
I
have
needed that.
Berserker. They have Wild Heart, formerly known as Totem Warrior. And
Formerly
then
known.
yeah,
R.I.P.
and then
R.I.P.
they offended some people, I'm sure. But then they also have Path of the Zealot, and then a totally new one, which is Path of the World Tree, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
sick.
it's like they literally at like ninth level or whatever have like Scorpion's Get Over Here ability. Like it's like you can make a ranged attack, force someone to make a save, and if they fail, you yeet them towards you and make their speed 0 for a turn. So it's they can teleport when they start their rage, and at like 14th level, you gain the ability to teleport as many creatures as you want within a certain radius with you. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna rage and we're gonna leave, or I'm gonna rage and we're gonna be in your face. Like, kind of whatever way you want to take it. So yeah, World Tree's great. Zealot they changed. I think for the better. I've heard some arguments on the other side. They did away with some of the um so like one of the abilities that they replaced is like zealots at third level gain this ability where it's like it doesn't cost material components to resurrect you. And like I played a game for 2 years. We had a zealot barbarian, was a zealot for like a year. That came up once, and at that point, it didn't matter because they were so wealthy and high level. Like it,
Yeah.
and it feels bad to have an ability only trigger if you die. Um,
Yeah. No,
so
I
n-
agree. I like the
so
changes they made to the Zealot. Big
yeah,
time.
so now you get whenever you have hit points restored to you, you gain additional hit points. Um, which is just you know, basically it's less about they made it so it's less about sort of towing the line of death and just not getting it's more like you're just not getting to zero as opposed to like, oh, getting to
Yeah.
zero doesn't matter. And to that
Yeah.
point, they removed the ability at 14th level. Zealot barbarians used to have the ability as if you drop to 0 hit points while you're raging, you don't go unconscious. You still are making death saves, but you only die if you reach the end of your rage and you have no hit points. So they just could go. They removed that, but the ability they replaced it with is when you're raging. Um,
Rage of the Gods.
so yeah, so something like that. But you gain a fly speed, and also if this is up to date, which it might be, uh, you can use your reaction to make an attack roll that hits you. uh, so there's some, yeah, there's a lot of buffs there, which I think is better. I prefer. I don't like swan song abilities that like because like you don't want to be dying to have your abilities function. So I kind of like the design change. I also think making barbarians fly is awesome. So um, I think that's really cool.
Seems like a lot of people are getting some flying abilities here in these subclasses.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to see if barbarians themselves got any. A lot of this, so they get more rage charges. They also re up a rage charge every short rest.
Good, good.
And also, you can use while you're raging, there are a set of skills that you can use. So, like, basically, they give you ways to use rage outside of combat. So, you can use rage to make like perception checks, stealth checks, survival checks with your strength modifier instead of the base one. So you can use rage outside of combat. I think they extended the length of rage in some limited sense. I don't recall exactly what it was, but so that basically you can like try to sneak in somewhere while raging and be better at it, um, which is great. Um, and then yeah, Wild Heart. Oh, that one's really Totem Barbarian. Now you can just change whatever option you pick on a rest. So it's like, oh, I wanted bear. Last fight on bear. Oh, maybe now it'd be better to be eagle. Switch to eagle. You can switch it up.
Yeah, almost
Which
almost in like a sense of like prepared spells.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, yeah.
Something
It's
right.
like
Like you could still
yeah,
change it every time.
yeah. It's you're preparing it, and it's true. The higher level ones too. They yeah. So that's great.
I'm glad they're opening all
Berserker.
these doors though, because to be honest, like it did feel like certain classes you never could change anything, and then other classes were like so utilitarian it was like unreal.
Yeah.
Especially like wizards, which are known for it, but still it feels it
For
it
sure.
it kind of sucks when you're the guy that's stuck, and everyone else around you can change at any time. Just a little bit,
Yeah.
but
See, they changed frenzy.
Which is
Um,
great. They fixed
yeah.
it.
they
Thank
fixed frenzy.
goodness.
Because for Berserker, originally it was like when you rage, you could enter a frenzy state,
Mm-hmm.
which whenever you basically get an extra attack as a bonus action every turn, which is good. But then you took a level of exhaustion when your rage ended, which
Right.
sucks. So now, when you reckless attack while raging, you deal extra damage. Just so you get it off of reckless attacks. And this one here, like I said, I don't remember if this is exactly up to date, but you get a number of d6s equal to your rage damage bonus. So at the third level, that's an extra 2d6 on the first hit, which is busted. You also you continue to have immunity to charmed and frightened while raging at sixth level. Um, when you take at 10th level, when you take damage from a creature within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to attack them, which stacks with your reckless attack if you're frenzying. So, because it's a different turn. And then they buffed their 14th level ability, which basically lets you use a bonus action instead of a full action. Bonus action to attempt to frighten everybody within a certain radius that you want.
Very nice.
Berserker's now actually a viable like subclass because it was just so constantly overshadowed by Totem Path Totem Warrior and getting half damage on everything, not just slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning. That I'm glad that it now has like a leg to stand on, and people won't just be spamming the bear totem barbarian or the zealot barbarian that could just do more for less. Like if it's going to cost you, if your key feature costs you an exhaustion point every time you use it, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely
you're
think
cutting
that,
off your leg to save your foot every time.
yeah. Or you could just, and then you have the guy over there who's like, I can just be on fire for 8 turns and it doesn't matter because it's all halved because I have the, the totem bear totem. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
man, and I'm like 3 levels into exhaustion. I'm failing everything now because I can't like roll. I roll everything at disadvantage. It's a killer.
Doesn't make you feel very berserk. It doesn't make you feel very berserky. It makes you feel
it doesn't make you feel guts. It doesn't make you feel like guts.
No,
Like,
not at all. Yeah. It makes you feel like you're literally just trading away one portion for the other. It's not even like a full on effect every time. That's what gets me.
So Wildheart got some buffs too, though. I don't think this was an ability in the 2014 one, but now at third level, they can cast Beast Sense and speak with animals as rituals.
That's new. That's very new.
Which is
also general
really good.
change that happened. You get no matter what class you are, you get your subclass at level 3 now. There are no classes where you get it earlier than that. So it used to be, I think, the cleric and the warlock got, and maybe one other.
So cleric and warlock were certainly level 1.
And they were level 1. Now it's
and wizard were level 2.
Yeah. Now it's 3 across the board.
Makes sense.
Which I think is good.
Which is great. I think it was smart, and it's an easy like work in, because like if you're a cleric and level 1, okay, yeah, your god just doesn't listen to you until level 3 because you're a nobody. Why would he listen to you? You're just new. Same with a warlock or cleric. So either of those. So I think it's an easy work in. I don't think anybody's going to be super upset about it. And it just makes it a little easier I think it makes it more even.
Some people are upset about it, though.
Okay. People are going to be upset about it.
If you're a cleric main, get over it.
It's actually the warlock that people are more peeved at.
Warlock. I think they buffed the shit out of the warlock.
No. It's the buff. They don't like the flavor of getting the patron at 3, but I think that makes sense.
Womp womp.
My argument is, why would this interdimensional being talk to you if you're a nobody until you've proven yourself? And then at level 3, they're like, oh, you can do things for me now. Like, you've proven yourself worthy of my time.
Yeah, level 1, you're just a peasant. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They also buffed the other.
I'm not a warlock main, so I get
the totems. They nerfed bear slightly. The only difference is that now you also don't have resistance to force in addition to psychic damage, but you still have the rest of them. And then Eagle, now you can spend a bonus action to take, and I'm not sure what the wording is here, because it says when you activate your rage and as a bonus action while it's active, you can take both the disengage and the dash actions. I don't know if that means you take them both at the same time or if you just have access to each of them. Either way, it's a buff because it previously was just dash. And then the wolf, which is the other third level one, got buffed. So now anybody, instead of within 5 feet of you, within 10 feet of you, has advantage on attack rolls. So
Oh,
They-
the
those
pack,
actually
the pack
are-
mentality
That's
thing.
really good if you have a big martial party.
yeah,
Like, even,
just feel
even,
like-
even if you only have one.
I just feel like everybody's always picks the bear.
yeah, and I
It's the
think
be- it's the
now
best
it's
choice.
gonna.
Let's be honest, it's
And
the
I-
best choice.
It is, but also I think that now you can make a solid argument, certainly for Eagle, and
Yeah.
probably for Wolf
Yeah.
too. And
Well,
then the
you said
thing is,
you
you
can
can
switch 'em.
change it up.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm gonna be going into. It's like, oh, we're in a mind flayer colony. Like, I'm not gonna pick bear today because they're all gonna be dealing psychic damage, so it won't matter.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But they also changed the 6 level ones, so they also changed the name. So let's see. This one you can only change when you. This one might be out of date because I'm trying to remember. I remember that the. Yeah, this one was like gives them kind of some skill monkey abilities. So, like the example given here is you have proficiency in stealth or survival. You already have proficiency, you gain expertise instead. And then that's for the spider. For the owl, it's investigation or perception. For elephant, it's athletics or insight. At 10th level, you can cast commune with nature, which you could do previously. And then 14th level, you get another set of buffs. So like the ones that are given here is that the lion, while your rage is active, any enemies within 5 feet of you have disadvantage attacking anybody except you, you or another barbarian. Is what it says. So, but you, the falcon, while your rage is active, you have a fly speed equal to your speed.
Let's go.
And then,
Fly
yep.
speed.
And then the ram, while your rage is active, when you hit a large or smaller creature with a melee attack, it has to make a strength save or you knock it prone. So you just also gain the knockdown ability always. So also buffed, also cool.
Yeah.
I think so. We
I
can
wish-
touch on Warlock now, though, if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, Warlock. I think they just did. I think it's like now a viable class.
I think it was always middle of the pack in terms of just because of Eldritch Blast. But they gave it.
Well, this is the thing. Talking about one-trick ponies with the paladin, I think that they've created they've given it the opportunity for you to have more to do on your turn than just Eldritch Blast all the time. Which I think is the big reason for me. The biggest change, Jared, I'm curious about your thoughts on this. Do you know how when you picked your pact, you also picked what boon you had? It was either Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Tome, or Pact of the Chain. Those are now all invocations, and you can get all 3 of them if you want to use your invocations to get them. So you could have, or none of them. You don't need it. So they increase the number of invocations you get over the lifespan of the character.
They start at level now.
Yeah, they start at level 1 now, so you could pick Pact of the Chain or whatever at level 1 if you wanted to, or another one. Like Eldritch Blast upgrade invocations, so like Agonizing Blast that would add your Charisma modifier. You can now use that for other cantrips as well, not just Eldritch Blast if you want to. You would use Eldritch Blast because it's the best one, but
But what you can do is you can say at first level, you're like, I want Agonizing Blast on my Eldritch Blast, and then at second level, you're like, I'd like the Agonizing Blast on my Shocking Grasp as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, if someone gets up close to me, I can deal extra damage to them as well. So
Yep.
you can stack different cantrips. I think Eldritch Blast is still probably the best one, but also I could see a real argument for and it depends on your
Toll the
build too,
Dead.
because it's like if you're playing a sword, a fighter type warlock, I could see Shocking Grasp for sure being a higher priority, like especially with the Fey Wanderer or the Archfey one, which we'll get to, because they can
Yep.
teleport a ton. So I
Yep.
can see them being much more in the thick of it.
Yep.
Um,
The,
but
go. The other big thing is which helps with like economy on your turn and opportunities for different things is now almost all of the invocations that used to require you to cast a spell using a spell slot for you, which is sucks as a warlock because you only get like 4 of them. If you are now, for the most part, if you are using a spell that is specifically something given to you by your invocation, you do not need to utilize a spell slot to use those spells. So now it
Yeah.
becomes, oh, I want to use this spell on my turn, and it's not going to like absolutely hamstring me later on down the line when I really needed to use another spell. So that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, no, I mean it seems good. It seems like Wizards is really really focusing on the action economy for a lot of classes, which is good because a lot of them were, as I hate using that phrase, one trick pony, but a lot of them were because of the lack of, like, you in the same way that, like,
Well,
you didn't want to be a
everybody
paladin that
figured out how
healed.
to optimize their turn to the point where if you didn't do the optimal thing, you were really hamstringing an encounter. Like
Yeah,
you're not
100%.
doing the right thing.
100%.
So
But like in the same way, like no one wanted to be the paladin that had to take the whole action to heal themselves. The same way, like
yeah,
like warlocks. I mean, like it's kind of lame when you have this giant entity, right, that you're supposed to be connected to, and then all you can do is Eldritch Blast, Eldritch Blast. Oh, I have a second slot. Okay, I'll do level 2. Whatever, stuff like that. So it is refreshing to see that for the certain ones that do kind of have to follow the railroad funnel, as
and
I'll
that's
call it.
actually speaking of that dope entity, right? That's like the defining thing. It's not a
Yeah.
god, but it's this crazy thing you're attached to. At level 9, you get this new ability called Contact Patron,
Ooh.
which allows you to once per long rest cast the contact other plane spell, communicate directly with your patron. You automatically succeed, and you automatically succeed the saving throw for the spell. So basically, once per long rest, you can talk to your Eldritch Sugar Daddy and like have conversations. And I really think like that's great because it feeds into this idea of like having that entity, but also like interacting with it in like a really unique way that like others, like clerics get divine intervention, which is awesome when
Right.
it lands,
Right.
and that's like super cool to have that connection with your god. And they also had spells like commune, where they could commune with their god. And I think it's great that now the warlock can lean into that more, and you and the DM can play that relationship a lot more too,
Yeah.
without the DM having to come up with specific ways to like
Yeah.
figure it out. Like if you have a good enough DM, it was happening anyway. But now it gives you an easy way for the player to actually initiate that conversation with the DM as the patrons. Or
Yeah,
so I think
it's
I think it's great.
definitely, it is good. I agree. It's definitely one of those things that it seems like they made that change because they realized people were doing it without an actual action
Yeah, without a catalyst.
or
Yeah,
any sort of spark. So it's good for them that they recognize that was a change they needed to make. And it's super easy. I mean, it's not like it is detrimental at all to be able to reach out like that when the cleric can do that, and arguably the paladin as well should be able to do it without actually having to like spend a real action.
yeah,
But yeah, it's good to see that on the flip side of, like, in the way of, it's a darker connection because, like, it's like
yeah.
you're selling your soul instead of like, oh, I'm the beacon of good, so that's why I'm getting blessed. So it's cool to see that. but it seems like another one of those changes that kind of came as like a quality of life kind of thing where they were
Yeah.
like, well, everyone seems to be doing it. We have a lot of feedback on it, yada yada, whatever. But it is refreshing to see them actually make that change instead of just letting it pass. Because I mean, they easily could have, and just no one would really would have complained.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
They
I
also
like
have
it. I like being able to feed into that. I like that they are giving all. They're also giving abilities that aren't just helping in combat. They're really
right,
leaning into the storytelling and RP aspect of the
yeah.
game, which
The,
I really like.
there's a lot of thematic quality of life
And they're also
changes.
buffing combat too, and they're making combat like super epic, with a lot like though, especially for the martial classes with weapons mastery and stuff like that. But then
Yeah,
on top of that, we're getting some of this like flavor built in now
yeah.
to the
It
classes,
seems like
the out of combat flavor.
it seems like they're okay with where the game is in a sense, and I appreciate them not pushing it like sixth edition in a way, and just
Yeah,
augmenting the fifth because like the fifth plays really well. It really does in all reality. Like there's some negatives, of course. Like not everything's perfectly balanced. There's perfectly done, but whatever it gives a good groundwork. And I guess they're comfortable with that, which is why I feel like they're adding all of these random augments, not random, but more quality of life stuff and stuff
enhancements.
they've realized
The
that
term.
they've realized that people are making these changes by themselves for quality of life stuff and all that, and I think that's a good way to you know judge how well your game, because like at the end of the day, if your game is if people are complaining about quality of life stuff for a game and not the core mechanics of the game, you're probably in the right wheelhouse, and you don't really need to make a change like how 3.5 went to 4 and then 4 quickly was followed by 5 because they realized how bad 4 was. So in that regard, I think it's good. I think it's good they gave a different flavor into the warlock that wasn't just like, oh yeah, in my backstory I made this connection, and then you never have to interact with it again unless you really choose to. So on
the
them,
DM makes opportunities, right?
right,
It takes the emphasis off the DM having to come up with something and puts it into the hey DM, I'm casting the spell, it automatically succeeds. Let's talk,
right,
right?
It,
And
it also, yeah, it also something else it does too. The other end of it is it keeps it in a sense makes the DM include it as
yeah,
well on the other end of it because and this is something that I saw change with the wild magic sorcerer because it used to be the wild magic table was like basically entirely dependent on when the DM wanted you to roll on it, and they took that out because they're
yeah.
like, this is because if you get a DM which doesn't let you use it because for whatever reason, then you just don't have a subclass. And in the same way,
Like
it's
you,
like
Ed.
I just don't let people take wild magic, though I might let them do the new one. I'm gonna take a look at the table. They apparently
I think
enhanced
they
it, so
completely revamped
I
the
think it's
table. I'm
yeah,
hoping it's going to be more like
the
the
wild
what was
magic.
the Wild Magic
Yeah,
Barbarian, where
yeah,
it's like way more buffs,
yeah.
and if you do get a debuff, it's like not as bad as it's not encounter breaking.
it's less random
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
controlled chaos.
I think I'm most excited in terms of warlock subclass. Obviously, so the Archfey is going to be really strong
Spicy.
because the Archfey they leaned into the elements of the Fey where they are like tricky.
Yeah,
So, like basically what they can do here. So you can cast Misty Step without a spell slot a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier. This is from level 3, regaining the uses at the long rest. And whenever you do Misty Step, one creature you can see within 10 feet gains temporary hit points, or creatures within 5 feet of the space that you teleport out of have to make a Wisdom saving throw, or they have disadvantage attacking anybody besides you. So it's kind of like the Fae, making fun of somebody and then they, piss them off.
Right.
6th level, uh, you can cast Misty Step in response to taking damage. So as a reaction, and you would gain additional effects. So whenever you Misty Step, you can turn invisible, or you can deal psychic damage to the space, around the space that you left. 10th level, you become immune to being charmed, and you can use your reaction to reduce damage when you take a hit, and then deal psychic damage back. And let's see. Oh, and 14th level, whenever you cast an enchantment or an illusion spell using an action and a spell slot, you can use Misty Step as part of the same action without expending a spell slot. So they leaned heavy
Yeah, a
into
lot of
that. But
movement. It's a lot of movement.
the one, the one I'm the most excited for actually is the Gulak, the great old one.
Yeah.
Warlock, because this one they leaned into the creepy, because so you still have the telepathic connection at 3rd level that you could make before, but they made it better. In addition to 3rd level, when you cast a warlock spell that deals damage, you can change it to psychic damage, and whenever you take psychic damage, the creature that dealt it to you takes the same amount. So very good. 10th level. Sorry, 6th level. I missed 6th level. 6th level. When you form a telepathic bond with something, you can force a creature to make a wisdom save, and on a fail, it has disadvantage on attack rolls against you, and you have advantage on attacking it. So you can actually use the telepathic bond to like start draining your enemies, which is really cool. 10th level, thoughts can't be read. Let's see. Oh, also, I forgot 3rd level. So they can change the damage type to psychic. Additionally, enchantment and illusion spells can be cast without verbal or somatic components. 10th level, you always have the hex spell prepared. When you cast hex and choose an ability, the target has disadvantage on saving throws as well as ability checks with that chosen ability. So very good. And then create thrall. You always have the summon aberration spell prepared.
Oh, nice.
And when you cast it, you can modify it so it does not require concentration.
That's
But
actually
if you do it,
huge.
it takes 1 minute to cast.
Ooh.
But it's buffed up higher, so it's like an outside of combat thing that you bring in.
Mm. I like that though. That's
Yeah,
cool. It's a cool change.
that's the one I'm most excited for out of the warlock subclasses.
Oh yeah.
Fiend got buffed. Um,
Yeah.
And Celestial, I think, is pretty similar. It's got the healing and some other stuff, but the Fiend, now, whenever you or an ally within 10 feet reduces someone to 0, you gain temporary HP. It used to just be if you did. Now, your allies do it. You gain power from killing things. You have additional uses of Dark One's Own Luck, which is where you can add a D10 to saving throws and ability checks. So good. 10th level, it's similar, I believe, to what it was. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you pick a type of damage and you're resistant to it. And then the 14th level, they buffed Hurl Through Hell, which now it doesn't. Let's see here. So you can expend spell slots to do it additional times. So it used to be you just did it once. Now, at 14th level, I think you have 3 spell slots at that point. You can do it more if you want. And it's really good because it's 8d10 psychic damage and takes someone off the board for a turn.
That is very good.
Yeah. So Fiend was good. Yeah, and Celestial, I don't think they changed a lot. Let me see if there's anything they changed. Oh, and also they changed warlocks. So warlocks previously, the way it worked with their expanded spell list, unlike the cleric and the other ones, it was just spells you had the option of preparing. Now they've made it so you have them prepared always, which is better. It increases your utility. And all of the classes now have the expanded, or subclasses have the expanded spell list, because originally, um, like the early sorcerers didn't have that, so now they all have that. They get extra. But yeah, it's looking good so far. We could been going for a little while. We could cover the rest of it next time if we wanted, or we can
Yeah, that
keep.
that works for me.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
I also know
there's
it's
a
an
lot.
hour later. It's
Yeah.
an hour later for Jared.
We're recording
But,
at 12:30 our time, and Jared's an hour ahead. So
So
It is a little late,
uh,
but
AM to specify.
yeah,
yeah,
it's 1:20 here. So, but no, it's good. It's just there's so much depth to everything. Like we've only covered what 4,
Yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah,
or 5.
we
Ranger,
spoke about the bard, the wizard, the sorcerer. We
Druid.
touched a little bit
Druid.
on the cleric, but the druid, yeah,
Druid, cleric, and rogue.
Rogue.
Yeah. So we got
a few more.
Yeah, we got a couple more.
We did
some
about
of them
half.
have more
we didn't
changes
go
than
in.
others. So
Yeah, we didn't go as in depth on the paladin, but the big change is the
Smite. Yeah.
the smite.
Happens, yeah.
But well, I guess we'll go ahead and
my boy.
It's all right. It's all right.
My boy.
It's okay. The monk came out on top. It's a big win. It's a big win for
That's
us.
true. Yeah, Jared's like, you know what? It's okay.
It's all right.
They do-
It only took
they're
me. It
both
only took
solid.
10 years. 10 years of suffering.
Might get to it next time. I'm also super stoked to play sorcerer.
Yeah, me too.
Great, but we'll save that for next time. In the meantime, stay frosty. And I think the sign off.
I
Stay
can't
frosty.
even remember what the sign
Stay
off was.
frosty.
Stay frosty.